All right. So today we have a great panel of speakers to talk about home care. And I'm really excited to share our speakers today. AJ Sani, I'm sorry if I say that incorrectly, owner of Comfort Care Home Care, and Lorna Van Akron, who is community liaison for Hillendale Home Care in the Bay Area today in Contra Costa County. AJ, I'm sorry, is in Alameda County in Livermore. And Comfort Care and Hillendale Home Care are home care companies designed to help people remain living in the comfort of their own home with assistance in activities for daily living. The home care services are provided by compassionate caregivers on a temporary or permanent basis, depending on the individual person's needs. And we are all part of the National Aging in Place San Francisco Bay Area chapter. We're here to serve and educate people and advocate for seniors and their families. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I think one of the things that we need to think about if we're going to age in place in your own home, you need to take a look at the safety of your own home. The AARP recently surveyed 90% of people want to remain living in their own home. So first of all, how safe is your home? 1 in 3 falls happen in your own home. So you really need to take a look at some of the hidden dangers within your home. AJ, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. What a perfect way to start, Lorna, because that's extremely important. And thanks for the introduction, Sarah. Yeah, when we want to age in place, safety, we think we are safe in our own homes. And sometimes we ignore the very little things. They are not very complicated, easy to do, but we miss out because, hey, it's our home. We have been living here for decades, and we know our home the best, and nothing has happened until now, or very little. So we feel we are safe. And as we age, there are few things that if we manage, things can get a lot better. For example, is like our home decluttered, or there are too many things in our way? When we get up and we start walking, do we trip over? Are there rugs in a way that increases the probability of a fall? Is the lighting proper? And then are there some steps or the gradient or the slope or also uneven, like moving from one room to another, going into the hallway? Is it like from the bedroom, the floor is at the same level, or is there something in between? And if there is not proper lighting, we don't have, even sometimes we ignore our glasses, like, vision test, and oh, it's fine. And if we take care of some of these basic stuffs, and also, Lorna, how important it is to have grab bars and all those things in the bathroom, and the raised toilet seats.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to throw into this conversation at this point is a person may fall due to other things than just something in the way. Their vision may have gotten worse and they need to have their eyesight tested. Poor balance. Perhaps they have some medications that are interacting. It's your reflexes aren't the same. Everything is dependent on everything else. So you need to take a look at all these things. But okay, so now we're safe in our home and we want to live in our home. We don't want to go to a facility or a boarding care. AJ, can you talk about what home care is?
Sure. So when we talk about home care, first of all, some people try to use interchangeably home care and home health. The main difference is when we talk about home care, we are talking about support with activities of daily living, whatever we are doing in our homes, and a helper, an assistance, similar to what a family member will be doing to take care of a loved one when we are in a home, whether it's a spouse or an adult children, doesn't matter. Same way, if we get an external help, that's what home care is about. When it comes to home health, it's more on the side of medical related, whether it's PT, OT, coming into the home and working with, especially after a medical condition.
A doctor needs to make a prescription for that, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
Medicare does pay for that, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
How does home care get paid for?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question in the sense that majority, if we look at the statistics, a big chunk of home care is taken care by private pay. That's what the most common
Yeah.
way of covering home care. However, there are certain programs, and it's very important that we are aware of those things.
Mhm.
Things like if there is a veteran and an eligible veteran or a surviving spouse, Veterans Affairs Administration pays for home care if certain conditions are met, like the financial situation, the medical condition, and also the honorable discharge. So if those things are met, then VA would be paying for home care. So it's very important to be aware of that. And then there are like long-term care insurance plans. So if people who have taken long-term care insurance, then the long-term care insurance would take care of the home care needs. Also, in some cases, when people are living in their own homes, they make use of the reverse mortgage.
Right, that's very good, very good. And then there are also, for people who are of lower income, they may be eligible. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. The rest of the world is called Medicaid, but they might be eligible to get an IHSS caregiver that would be funded through their eligibility with Medicare. Medi-Cal, I'm sorry. I wanted to kind of talk about some of the services that a caregiver does in terms of when they come into the home. AJ, you were right. It's very much like somebody is taking care of their parent. It's just another person. Some of the things are, just you spoke about ADLs, activities of daily living. And just to give you a couple examples, that would be like bathing, feeding, possible meal preparation, companionship, working with, if they have a physical exercise program, helping them do that, maybe taking them to doctor's appointments. Are there any other things that you can think of, AJ? Light housekeeping.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. And I try to make it little, really easy for the families, because you are absolutely right. And it's a very good point that you have brought up. Sometimes when they are thinking of home care, the first question comes to mind, okay, what will home care cover, or what all they will be doing? And the easiest way to think about is like how our day starts from, let's start from the very much in the morning.
Good
There could be a
point.
need of going to the bathroom, right? Getting out of the bed and going to the bathroom. One may need assistance. If that's what, sure, that assistance can be provided by home care. And after that, is there a breakfast? And after breakfast, do we need to do some exercise? Do we need to prepare something for our lunch? Do we need to go out for an appointment? Do we need some, companionship, play some games? So if we are just, the easiest way, I guess, to think about is how a family member with a senior would be helping pretty much, I would say, most of the things, unless of course we are talking about financial or some other decisions which like are pure family matters. But in terms of assistance, what a family member would be doing, um, same things can be expected from a caregiver. That, okay, hey, when the caregiver comes, it's more like, okay, how can we make sure the senior is safe, and whatever they want to do, how can we do that? How can we help them with all those activities that they would love to do? And in some cases they may do 100% on their own. In some cases they need a little bit of help, and in some activities they are totally dependent on care. Whatever be the case, the job of the caregiver is to pretty much make the day count, enjoy the day, do whatever you love to do.
Yeah, I tell families that when they finally make the decision to get home care, that allows the daughter or the son or the husband or the wife to go back to those roles. of being the daughter, son, wife, or husband, but not the caregiver, and let them again enjoy their loved one for who they are, and let the home caregivers do the activities of daily living. Okay, one of the things that I'm often asked about is okay, I'm bringing a stranger into my house. How do I know that they're safe?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're bringing some very good points, and these are the questions or thoughts that would come in anyone's mind.
Mhm.
And the options when it comes to having a caregiver can be whether we go for an agency that is taking care of, like they have a team of caregivers, or we find an individual caregiver and who can be the right person. But the challenge becomes, how do we make sure that the person who is coming into the house is really a, a person that you would feel safe to be
Mhm.
around?
Also, that if they're trained, I mean,
Yeah,
not just anybody can be a caregiver. They have to receive proper training.
absolutely, absolutely. And in state of California, and as the San Francisco chapter here, we are talking about California today. California state is a licensed state when it comes to home care. So all the agencies, they have to have the license from the California State Department of Social Services. Looks into all the aspects, and there are certain conditions. So for example, each and every caregiver on the payroll of a company should be live scanned, should be registered as home care aide with the state, and that ensures, and also there is an orientation training that needs to be
Mhm.
done. So the caregiver would just not be any person who says, hey, I can just go and I can work. It's more to do the complete background check
Mhm.
and make sure that the person is not having a history where it can be a risk for the vulnerable seniors. And I think it's also important, it's just not a case of at the time of hiring, because it's part of the database. If something changes, in that case,
Yes.
the department would know and inform the agency. And it can happen with anyone. Like, for example, a person who is joining a company may be a very good person, everything is going on fine, but we don't know 2, 3, 4 years down the line what goes in the personal life of that particular caregiver. If
Yes.
something goes wrong, the person starts drinking and is driving while drinking, as soon as that person is caught, it's flagged, and the agency gets the report that, okay, this person was drinking while driving. And as soon as the agency knows that, the agency can make sure that the person cannot just continue to work as the person was working earlier. So the protocols are followed, the rules are followed. And the number one thing I would say for any agency is the safety. And when I say safety, I say safety of employees, safety of the family members, safety of the seniors, everyone involved.
Right.
Because we are here, like when we talk about home care, it's a function to help people there to make things better. And safety is the number one part. And yes,
Absolutely.
yes, yeah, you started with safety in the
Yeah,
beginning, and
exactly. We're
safety goes
back
at
at
different
it.
levels. Safety goes at different levels.
Well, in addition to everything that you just mentioned, it's also important to know that when you're with a licensed home care organization, they are paying the workman's comp. They have liability insurance, or we have liability insurance. We are the employer. We do the paychecks. We file the W-2 forms. So there's a lot of back office kinds of things that happen when you work with a licensed certified home care organization like Comfort Care or Hillendale Home Care. Um, Another question that I want to throw out is, if you go through the phone book, there's lots of home care agencies around. How do you go about picking the right home care organization? I know I tell my people, don't call more than 3 home care organizations or you'll get confused. I say, ask the questions that are the most important to you and ask those questions to all 3 of the different home care organizations that you talk to. So in the end, you have the same answers from all 3 of these home care organizations to choose from. And the questions you ask are the questions that are important to you. Obviously, how much does the service charge, but also, how do you train your caregivers? Do you have a human being answering the phone? What happens if a caregiver does not show up for their shift? Do you require a contract? Do you have minimum hours of service that you require? So you ask all those questions that are important to you. And AJ, are there any other questions that you can think of that we should mention?
You covered very well, just pretty much like what we were discussing a little bit earlier in terms of, licensed agency.
Mm-hmm.
A family is entitled to ask that, okay, are you licensed? And
Yeah.
can even see the copy of the license that, okay, show me the license of the copy. Or even once it's a licensed agency, there are minimum requirements. For example, having the liability insurance, having workers' comp insurance. But families can ask the copies of the
Yeah.
insurance too, if they want to be, double sure that everything is in order. And some of those things are extremely important to cover the families, because sometimes they say, oh no, the person is coming, it's fine, there is not much of a need, my dad or my mom just needs a little bit of a companion care, and this person, whoever will come, it's okay, it's no big deal, and my parents are reasonably independent. But things can go wrong at multiple levels. And when we talk about insurance, it is to cover the employee from the workers' comp if something happens to the employee while at work. Say, for example, the caregiver is assisting in the shower and slips, and there is a serious back injury. In that case, if there is workers' compensation insurance, that will take care of. Family will not be responsible to really take care of it. But if there is no agency or there is no insurance involved, in that case, the caregiver has the option to go after the family and say that I was working in your home and I got injured, so now you need to take care of my well-being for the rest of my life. So it can be very expensive. The other thing could be, what happens if that caregiver, whether that person is like, as I said, the person can be a great person, but we don't know if people change and people go through different types of challenges. If it shouldn't happen, but still, if that caregiver steals something from the house, in that case, is there a theft insurance? So if the crime is committed, then is there a way to recover? If the agency is insured, properly insured, then there is a possibility. So that's why sometimes people try to evaluate. These are some of the things that should be asked, that when we are asking, there's an organization, is that organization licensed?
I just thought of 2 really important questions that I didn't mention.
Mhm.
One is asking the company how long you've been in business. Did you just start up, or are you like 5, 10, 15 years old? I mean, I think it's real important to know how long a company has been in business. And the other thing that's real important is making sure that the agency that you're talking to is going to come into the home and do an assessment of that individual abilities and needs must be done before a caregiver can come into the home. So what a red flag would be, if you're talking to a home care organization and they say, when do you want a caregiver, we'll send them out. Without coming into the home, without meeting the person, without seeing the safety of the house, without being able to analyze exactly what the best care would be for that person, and write that out and make it a care plan. And that care plan is what the caregivers would follow. And I think that's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we talk about care plan, that also gives a sense. There are certain things that are subjective, and why it will give a sense that the agency or the person coming into the house is truly taking care of, like working in a manner that will take care of our parents. Because if we are not, we are just, as you mentioned, if an agency says, oh, I will send the caregiver, when do you need help? Oh, you need to start from Monday. Okay, fine. What hours do you need? Oh, you need like, 10 to 4. Okay. Caregiver Julie will come and will help you, right?
Yeah.
Or John will come on the weekends and John will help you, from 10 to 3 or whatever hours you need. That is more like, an agency has a mindset of just shipping the bodies, shipping the caregivers, and they are not involved, because it's just not about a person. And before we go into that, and you can also add one thing, I will say sometimes families say, I want to meet the caregiver before we start the service. Nothing wrong in asking that, but I say that's not that important. And the reason being, the caregiver that may start, for whatever reasons, may not continue for too long, in a week or 2 weeks or 2 years or 1 month or 6 months. We don't know. That person may relocate to some other place or may find a job which is closer to the home. The key is, how does the agency is looking after the client? That's extremely important. And that starts with what you just said, like in terms of assessment. When we do
Assessment,
the
absolutely. When we go in, when our nurse goes in to do an assessment, all the time that they're with the family, they're thinking about the caregivers that we have that would be a good match. And so, we know more about our caregivers' abilities and what they can and can't provide. The one thing I will say is that we're talking about human beings, and there's always a possibility of two individuals not really being able to get along or whatever. So, I tell our people that you may have to go through one or two different caregivers to find that match. And you just need to be open to that, because there's always that possibility. Life happens.
right,
But
extremely important, that part, that to understand that it's a bit of a matchmaking in a way, that the client and the caregiver, they both click. And until that happens, the family has a right to ask that, okay, there is also a case of very open communication.
mhm,
In that case,
mhm.
in the agency, who are the people who are calling the shots? So there could be a care plan coordinator, there can be the owner of the company, there can be, whatever you want to call a client facing manager who is overseeing everything. So are those people you can connect with? Can you relate to? Are they listening to you? Are they putting your interest number one? If
Right.
those things, the feelings you should get by having those conversations. Otherwise, if we are just go by the number, then maybe saving a buck or two may not be the
The
wise
best
thing.
thing, yeah. Well,
Because
and that's another thing, like when you call the home care organization, is it a human being that answers the phone, or is it a recorded message? And how long does it take the agency to get back to you? Because things happen very quickly. And if you can't get a hold of the agency and talk to a human being, you're going to run into a lot of issues. So availability, I think, is very important too. Um,
and that availability comes from like asking the right question, as you mentioned, like, what are the options of calling, who will answer the phone, and also if there is a point of contact, do we have the cell phone of that person? That can, in today's world,
that's
if
a good
I'm
point.
if I'm dealing with my, if I'm interacting with my client, the first thing I do when I meet, I say, okay, here is my cell phone number. So
Mhm.
even doesn't matter if it's like after hours, there is always a team that will answer. But even at any point of time, you want to reach me directly, feel free to call me, feel to text me. No time is like late. It's not like 11 o'clock in the night and you can't call at the first given opportunity. I'm supposed to get back to the client. That's the kind of commitment we need to see from the team that is engaging. Otherwise, as you said, things do happen. And if something happens, everything is going fine, then nobody cares. Everything is going in a more or less in an autopilot mode. But the key is, if something goes wrong, then how do we address it? And it could be, even if it's not a wrong, it could be a genuine thing. Like, for example, a caregiver is coming, Bay Area, it's, the commute is pretty, tough. A lot of times the caregivers are not living in the area the client is. So if a caregiver is coming from far off and driving like 25 miles, and there is a big accident on the highway and the caregiver cannot come on time, and the client needs to go to the hospital, there is an appointment, very important appointment. In that case, if that caregiver, because of the traffic condition, no fault of the caregiver, cannot reach there on time, what is the backup option? Is there someone who is there who can understand the seriousness and say, okay, and there can be all kinds of clients. A client could be such that is completely bedridden, cannot get out of the bed. In that case, the caregiver has to come in the morning to take that person to the bathroom. In that particular situation, if the caregiver is stuck because of traffic or anything, in that case, for the agency, that has to be the number one priority, to send a person so that all the urgent things can be taken care of. So that's level of commitment we can only get by having a proper conversation, engagement, and before we make the decision. And most of the times we get that feeling when we talk to people.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a
It's a
very,
people
heart to heart. You
Yeah.
get to know.
Well, as you can see, just spending the time with us right now, it can be an overwhelming search for that right home care company and that right caregiver to take care of your loved ones. It can be very overwhelming, but that's why Aging in Place exists. We're here to provide resources. And we know that it can be a long journey, but you have support along the way. Thank you for joining us, and thanks, AJ.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when you are overwhelmed, don't worry. There are so many, wonderful people, great organizations, and National Aging in Place. That's the job, to provide those resources so that you have the organizations that are there to help the seniors, and they will take care of people. So we don't need to feel overwhelmed. And also, education is a big part. And National Aging in Place, that's what it does, provides education. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you both for this great discussion. We've gone through a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming. I know that a lot of families, when they're just getting started, and there are a lot of things you don't necessarily think about or cross your mind in the moment, right? So that's why it's so important to kind of think ahead of time, plan financially, and think about what you want for your quality of life, right?
Yes.
Because these are important decisions, and sometimes it's important to have some help at home if you want to stay home and you want to be safe in doing so, right?
Yeah, one
Um,
quick thing, Sarah. I just want to add
yeah,
that sometimes when we say, as the topic is aging in place, so what we call home is like a home that is for the resident wherever the person is. And in some cases, it's a single family home. It could be a gated community. It could be an independent living. It could be a senior living, like an assisted living. And it could also be like skilled nursing home. Sometimes you are there for a year because of the medical condition. So wherever you call it a place where you're living and you need some help, there is always help available.
yes, absolutely. And that was a perfect segue, because one of my questions I was going to ask is, can we combine services? If someone does have, say, home health, or they're getting discharged with that, is there any reason they cannot add home care, or do they need to wait for someone to advise them, about home care?
That's a good question, Sarah, and it's two completely separate things. Home health would be medically related, as in physical therapy, wound changing, wound care, occupational therapy. Home care is non-medical. So if you just keep that in mind, home health is medical, home care is non-medical, and you need both of them at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also it's like sometimes when we are getting discharged, there will be social workers. They can provide some information. And also, even if we are at home and something happens, it's never too late to ask for help. And as Lorna mentioned a little bit earlier, that ask for 3 companies. Usually, the another way to identify is sometimes even if you're not sure whether you need home care or if you need what level of home care you need, the home care agency should be able to guide and provide an overview of high level, and then that should help to identify what kind of care is needed, and that's the job of the agency, not to push for hours. Because given a quick example, if there is no need for a caregiver to be there for 12 hours, 8 hours, then we don't need to push for that. It's more like, what is the need? Where do you struggle to begin with? And that could be a starting point. And it could be like, help with the shower in the morning. That could be a starting thing. And then once you do that, the person realizes the value of the caregiver, then more things can be added. So we need to start somewhere. And usually, if we are struggling at home or wherever we are living alone, and adult children, they can, if they are visiting their parents, they can look into, is the refrigerator with expired food, or like the meals are being prepared, or what is the shower situation. If you are there for 3-4 days and you see your parents are not taking shower, then there are some red signals. So that could mean they need help, but sometimes they don't realize, or sometimes they feel a little bit embarrassed in a way to ask for. They say, oh, we are adults, why should we ask that we need help? So they don't even want to accept the fact, forget about asking for help. And in that case, if children see those things and say, okay, it's time to sort of explore the possibility, and it can start small and then we can build on it.
Yeah, that's a good point, AJ, because what we've done recently, just along your lines of thinking, Hillendale Home Care now provides a 1-hour wellness check. And that can be 1 hour in the home. It could be a standby assist in the shower. It could be a bed bath. It could be checking out the refrigerator to make sure there's no spoiled food. And that has been a service that we're really happy to be able to offer, because some people, that's all they need. They don't need 3, 4, 5, 24-hour care. They just need a little bit of eyes on. So no matter what your needs are, you should be able to find the home care organization out there that can fit what you need. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you both again. I think it's such valuable information to know that home care agencies are there to really fill in the gaps, and that if you have, some part-time medical care like home health or maybe hospice even, home
Right.
care can really help, because those services are not there 24/7. And oftentimes someone may require a lot of attention when they're being discharged, from an event they weren't expecting. So again, I really thank you for being here and encouraging everyone to think ahead about some of these questions, maybe talk with your loved ones if you're able to, make some plans, know what their ideas are, for themselves, what their quality of life and safety, would look like, what they would like to see. And it makes things a lot easier when you know what someone wants, right? So thank you both again for being here. And if anyone has questions or would like more information, you can go to ageinplace.org for the national organization that can give you resources throughout the country. You can look up different chapters in your area. If you would like to get in touch with us here in the Bay Area, you can email at naipc.sfbayarea@gmail.com. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.